Heber Cannon. Tell me about you. How old are you?
I'm 37 years old, and I'm born and raised here in Salt Lake City, Utah. And I'm a filmmaker and father of two.
Cool. Say 84?
83.
83. Damn it.
Yep.
Older than me.
Close.
Okay.
My wife is 84.
Can you tell me, is it a coincidence that you are a filmmaker and you have the last name Cannon, but with like a, extra N in it?
I wish it was. I wish I shot more on Canon cameras because that, for a long time, that was my namesake and I had to. And then technology caught up with Canon and they no longer have the best cameras for video. So I don't use them very often, but they do have phenomenal photo cameras.
Yeah. So we both have our specs on, and this is for anyone that has been working a lot with the let's say camera, self-vlogging and everything. The main purpose of having the sunglasses on is you don't see where you're looking.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyways, so you've been into the CrossFit scene for how long now?
I've been in CrossFit since 2008. I started working for CrossFit as a contracted employee in 2009.
Okay. So did you so you hit like a very hard workout and then you were like, okay, how can I make content around this, or how did that happen?
I grew up as a filmmaker. I grew up making videos since I was literally like 7 or 8 even, or younger.
Yeah.
My oldest brother was a filmmaker in high school, and I would have been 5 or 6, and he would put me in his movies and I had fun acting in them. And then I had a fascination with content creation, storytelling through cameras and movies. And so throughout all of high school, I thought I would go to Hollywood and make movies. And I went to school. I went to the university studying how to tell stories through English and language and filmmaking. And then eventually, but before I graduated, I discovered CrossFit from a friend who had lost a lot of weight and looked really good. And I was like, what are you doing? And he said, I went to this CrossFit gym, and he showed me some pictures of it. And I said, I think that's kind of like the guys from the movie 300 trained like that. I want to go do that. And so the next morning I went and did my first CrossFit workout, and I never looked back. I've been doing it ever since. But it was very expensive. And so one of the ways that I paid for my membership was to shoot videos for my gym. And those videos eventually got to CrossFit headquarters, and that led to an email. And then that led to me working for them full time for almost about 9 years.
Crazy. Yeah, I have to give it to you. I mean, you worked for CrossFit for 9 years, and then CrossFit made this huge shift where they renamed themselves almost to CrossFit Health, and a lot of the guys from the media team also were let go, if I'm not miscorrect here, but that gave you the opportunity to start your new branch, or your new company, I guess, the Buttery Bros, together with your partner, right?
Yep, exactly right.
And what does and that company is called the Buttery Bros. So tell me about the idea behind the Buttery Bros.
Well, we were at the time in 2018, we were let go by CrossFit because they wanted to go in a new direction. The CEO at the time was unhappy with how the company looked. And so he left. He didn't want to create media about CrossFit. He didn't want people, he didn't want to pay to have videos made about the games. And so we saw that CrossFit wasn't going to be making any content. They weren't going to be making any documentaries. And we asked if we could. They said, hey, like, we've made all these movies in the past. we left on semi-decent terms. And the people that we worked with that were still at the company were, they wanted to see us succeed. And actually the other CEO, so there was like two weird CEO situation where one of them was like very pro us and wanted to see us succeed, but he wanted to see us succeed outside of the company. And so we negotiated with him to have rights to shoot the 2019 CrossFit Games. But they weren't exclusive rights. I think anyone could have gone and asked for the same thing. But we figured like, hey, we're going to make a movie about the 2019 CrossFit Games. We didn't want it to be branded as a CrossFit thing. We didn't want it to be branded as a Noble thing or a Reebok thing. And so we didn't want to have brands involved in the filmmaking, even though there were lots of brands approaching us and asking us to be a part of our movie. We went and shot some commercials for a CBD brand or a company that wanted us to shoot a commercial for them. And they paid us to be with this athlete. And while we were there, we shot the first episode of the Buttery Bros, just as a behind the scenes look at like, hey, this is what we're doing. This is kind of the fun that we're having. And I just kind of wanted to document all of our activities and travels and stuff that we had done, because before this, we had just got back from Dubai on this crazy long trip. And so we documented this little moment called Acid Bath in Matt Fraser's garage. And I said, okay, I think this can be our first YouTube. We should put it up as soon as possible. We put it up like a week later and it crushed. It did really well. I saw opportunity to include brands into that space without locking them into a documentary space, so that we could keep that white labeled and be working with brands over here on this side to finance this. And so that's kind of what happened. This allowed us, the Buttery Bros allowed us to be anywhere that we needed to be with the camera. And then we would own all the footage to be able to make whatever we wanted after the fact for some sort of longer form storytelling piece. And so the Buttery Bros were started as a result of that, with the intention of also continuing to be able to do that. And since then, it's become the most fulfilling and fun thing that I do, that I work on.
Yeah, I can see that. So something obviously that is very connected in everything you do has been obviously, well, I would say the background where you come from and so on, with working for CrossFit and so on. But I've just noted, would you agree that your fitness has been increased the last 2 years?
I mean, when you're doing fitness regularly, I always call it like compounding interest, right? Like if you're following a nutrition diet and you're training hard over years, and you're not like falling away for that for months at a time or years at a time, your body seems to adapt better and better and better. For a long time, I don't know that I'm the fittest I've ever been. I would say back in 2015 or 16, when I was working at CrossFit and walking through a gym every day, I would be training 2 or 3 hours a day every day that I could. And that was a lot. And around 17, I started following, actually 16, I started following, tracking my macros. In 2017, I started working with, maybe it was 18. Around 2018, I got an actual nutrition coach that I was checking in with. And I want to say around that time, I was probably the fittest I've ever been. And I looked great on camera. Once I started the Buttery Bros, I would track every now and then, but I didn't get like dedicated to it until there just wasn't time. And so that kind of went by the wayside until about after the games last year in October of 2020. I decided like, okay, I'm going to get back on my game. I've got some downtime here. I'm going to be in Utah for a long time. I'm going to start tracking really heavily again. And since then, I've done that for now almost 7 months.
Yeah, cool. So, because I think, from my perspective, I think you and your partner Marge now have also gained some kind of, let's say, authority inside this CrossFit realm, where you are, also kind of a face of, having fun doing fitness through the Buttery Bros and so on. And, I'm not a professional filmmaker or anything, but I do a lot of media. So I definitely see and I appreciate how much work you guys put into all the editing and so on. I can't imagine how much content you're actually sitting on, and then you have to, you know, cut that down to some interesting parts. So yeah, just kudos to you, and also keeping up with all the training and so on. But what is your favorite, let's say, CrossFit memory? Do you have one?
Oh, I don't have a very specific favorite CrossFit. You know, like favorite memory of the last 12 years since starting CrossFit, probably my birth of my children. Whenever you release a new movie, it's always a very fun moment. I remember the first time we released Froning, the fittest man in history.
Yeah.
24 hours later, within 12 hours, we had a phone call from iTunes or Apple asking us who we were and how we were able to do that on their charts, because we just crushed the charts and they had never heard of us. And now we work with them whenever we release a movie. That was a really cool moment. Yeah, there's tons of really great moments that have happened since starting CrossFit.
Yeah. So speaking of which, you just released your newest movie this week, right? So tell me about
on Tuesday.
Yeah, tell me about it. How has it been going?
Right now, I think on that platform, iTunes or Apple TV, it is the #1 movie, I would say, in the world. Just because I don't know of any other movies that are. We are the #1 in America, Australia, Spain, Netherlands. You know, I think that I know of 8 or 9. I don't know how we're doing in Germany, or if it's even out in Germany yet. But like, it's exciting to put out the new movie, and we're excited about the response from it.
Yeah, how is that like to create put in a lot of time and energy into creating that kind of movie, and then you need to release it, and you never know how the audience is gonna go. Is it like the right timing? Should you release it now or like 2 months earlier or later? What's the process behind that?
I wish there was more like insightful things on this, because we don't really get to take our time on it. Like these movies to some degree aren't evergreen, meaning like they aren't as exciting after 2 weeks from now when they crown another champion of the CrossFit Games, because then everyone wants to know the behind the scenes on 2021. And so for every one of these movies since Froning, so I've created 6 of those, the most recent 5, they all kind of lose their spice after being out for a few months because the year is over. So for this movie, because the CrossFit Games happened later, they happened in October, it was just basically a sprint to try and get it done in time so that people could buy it for before the CrossFit Games. And so we just, the only goal was to release it as early as possible.
Okay. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, those, I guess those days also when you're shooting at the games, those are also pretty hectic days. And then at the same time, you need to shoot the Buttery Bros stuff too, right? And how does your mind work together there? Like, how do you get the pieces together?
And I think there's a lot of crossover in places. A lot of it is like, you just know, like competition stuff, and intimate moments with athletes before and after every event probably aren't going to make the Buttery Bros show. And then it's really just trying to find activities or things to do on top of the games that are entertaining for us and our audience. And so in 2020, that was kind of tough because there wasn't a lot going on. And so honestly, now I have to go back and rewatch what we did for those episodes. But I know in 2019, like we would be filming behind the scenes of the game and then in the events. And then we'd look at our watch and say, okay, we have 20 minutes. Let's go over to the Whoop booth. We're going to flip some pancakes, and then for 10 minutes, and then we're going to go drive race cars in the parking lot for 10 minutes, and then we're going to get back for the next final heat. And so like that was kind of our schedule to like operate and find activities that weren't just competition, because that was going to be in our documentary, but that kind of helps tell the fan experience at the CrossFit Games.
Yeah. So how much?
So this year we're not. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You. So this year.
I was gonna say, well, this year we're focusing a lot more on what we're creating on top of for the Buttery Bros, and so we're really excited about what we're going to be doing this year.
Yeah, well, I'm firstly very interested in seeing how the new movie is going to be, and because those are very insightful, and I know so many people have been inspired by those movies because they've been on Netflix too, and you know, even though they're not evergreen, as you say, I know people have seen these movies, you know, years behind, and they're like, that drove me to the gym. And as a gym owner, I also experienced that, you know, multiple times. So thanks to you and your work.
Great.
I have to say. So just a quick question. How many pancakes do you really then eat?
Oh, I maybe once a week will have a pancake breakfast, and either that's going to be on the show. Like we don't wake up every morning and go find pancakes. We film that for the show, or I've got like some protein pancakes that I make for my kids here, maybe once a week if I'm in town.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, because I know by fact that many think, oh, these guys, they're smashing it with the pancakes, and that's how you get ripped body, right?
Well, it's a balance, right? Like if I wanted to eat pancakes every day, I would figure out how to make it work with my macros.
Yeah. I asked you about the best CrossFit memory, but what's your best, let's say, movie memory, like film memory? Doesn't have to be your own, but like what's your ideal movie?
Oh, what's my favorite movie or favorite movie moment?
As a filmmaker, you know, or I don't know, where you
it's probably gonna be, you know, maybe like because it's a combination of things. They're not my favorite movies, but I just love the era of when Lord of the Rings would come out. And I loved those movies. They're phenomenal action movies with great story, great character development. But on top of that, like the experience of going to a movie theater with fans on opening night. And back then they used to, you know, now if a new movie's coming out, it'll come out at like 7 p.m. or in the evening at a regular hour. And anyone could just happen to buy a ticket and walk in. But back in the, you know, early 2000s and through a lot of early films, you know, 2010 even, movies would drop on Thursday night at midnight. And so you would have to be a super dedicated fan to be going to the movie theater at midnight to watch a new movie. And so they would be sold out crowds of people that were all excited to be there. And when you had that kind of communal spirit and energy in the cinema, it was those movie watching experiences top anything else outside of that. And so those moments I love. So seeing any of the Lord of the Rings or even I remember going to Mission Impossible 3 at midnight. Like those are my favorite movie watching experiences.
Yeah, funny you say. I was guessing on some Peter Jackson movie there, but very good. I have a final question before I want to let you go, and that is, how much does it help you as a filmmaker to actually be fit, and you know, continuously been doing CrossFit and so on, because I guess you also put a lot of stress on your body for the filmmaking itself, you know, and all the time you need for that.
Yeah, it definitely helps to be able to, and it depends on the type of job you have as a filmmaker. For us, we film very run and gun. Like we have some pre-production, not a lot, but a lot of it's just like, we know what we're doing. We're going to show up and we're going to be here, here, and here. And we're just kind of all over the place. And during production days, we're running back and forth with a really heavy camera. Camera technology is getting better. It's getting lighter. It's getting more efficient. But, 5 years ago, I would be running up and down the field with a ginormous free fly Mobi M10 with a red digital cinema camera on it with a cinema lens. And that was like a 17-pound package that I was running up and down the field with literally all day. And they didn't have a stand on the Mobi. So I'd have to carry it until someone could walk up to me with a stand where I could set it down. I couldn't just set it on the ground. And so being physically fit was very important part of that job. And I feel like it just gives you but on top of the physical capacity it gives you, it's the mental and mentally health and stability that it gives you. Because I feel after I've worked out, I'm happier, my endorphins are up, I feel more fulfilled. And if I go through 2 or 3 days where I haven't worked out, like I get angry or I get upset easier or I get frustrated easier, and it just doesn't, my mindset isn't there. And so for me, fitness has always been a non-negotiable, where it is something that I'm going to do every day. And regardless of what time it is or what I've already done that day, I will make time to do some sort of physical activity.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's an important thing to realize for most of us. It's like that, but for people that don't do it, they might not really understand how important that is. Actually, I have another question: is how has it been for you to train now with the top athletes from of the world, like the fittest guys in the world, basically, or literally? How's that been for you? Have you I guess now you're like 100 episodes into your show, but like when you started out, like, hey, can we actually train with these guys? Or how was your kind of mind of thought there?
I think the mindset has always been, back in even years before we started the Buttery Bros, when I was filming Froning, I would try and do everything Rich would do, but I would scale it back. So like I would film him work out for 2 hours in the morning, and then I would try and do as much of that as I could while he was resting. And then I would, pick back up the camera and film and go again. And so I would do that pretty regular. That was a fairly common experience filmmaking. And for, like I said, like I always make it a non-negotiable. Anytime I'm somewhere, I'm trying to do a workout. And so whether that's like, doing what the athletes are doing or just doing my own thing afterwards, that's something I've always done whenever I go shoot videos. And so in when we started the Buttery Bros, I mean, that's just a fun storytelling element, is can we keep up with these guys? And the answer is obviously no. But that's a fun way to figure out, okay, what does it take for me to be able to do that? Do I have to scale the weight back? Do I need to shorten some of the reps? And some of that is justifiable when we go to hang out with someone like Ben Bergeron, who's coaching Katrin David's daughter, and to help push her, he's telling an athlete next to her to go shorter on the run or do less muscle ups and scale the workout, so that Katrin doesn't realize that she thinks that you're beating her, and mentally she wants to push that to beat you. And so like last week we were with Scott Panchek, and the whole weekend it was me and Marsden versus Scott, and we would do what Scott would do his workout, and we'd film it, and then we'd not set down the camera. We'd then turn the camera on ourselves, and we would do the same workout, but it would be a you go, I go situation, just to see if we were able to keep up with Scott as a 2-man team. And or we would, we were with Jason Hopper a few days before that and tried to do everything that he did all day, where he just whopped the floor with us. He crushed us.
Yeah, I mean, those guys are animals, and I mean, you guys are also very fit, so it tells a lot about them too, and not to take away like how what level you're guys at too, even if you're not going to regionals and so on, like compared to most Joes out there, it's pretty good standard. I would say. So do you have two names for this year's games? Who will take it?
Oh, I think Tia Claire Toomey's going to win for the women. And then for the men, I have no idea. I have names that I would like to see, but I don't have a particular winner. I think it's there's one of like 6 athletes that could win, and that could be Noah Olson, Patrick Vellner, Jason Hopper, Justin Medeiros, BKG could make a really big push this year. And I'm sure I'm missing 1 or 2 other people that really deserve to be named. I think that the men's field is wide open and really exciting this year.
I really missed the segue there because I wanted to ask which guys will be on the podium so we could do the segue into the podium. But yeah, you also started a supplement company. Is that already out and running, or how is that?
We're about to make an announcement of when that actually will start production, or not production, start selling here in the States, which will be it'll be in a few weeks. So it hasn't dropped officially yet. COVID has made manufacturing more difficult than we anticipated. So we have that coming soon. Then we have, and beyond the States, it'll slowly start to make its way around the world. Every country's got different regulations around supplementation. And so our business team is working through that right now.
Is it literally Matt Fraser's shock in it, or how is it designed?
Yeah, we just shave his hands after he works out and put that in every bottle of protein. It helps, or pre-workout.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Okay, Heaps, I'm super happy for you taking the time, and I also wish that the movie goes well and that you have a good time in Madison. I'm not allowed to go, unfortunately, but yeah, I will try to go next year if the state allows us to go. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Okay. Have a great one, Heaps, and speak to you anytime soon.
Talk soon. Okay. Thanks, man.
Thank you.